those of you who have subscribed to me or who have clicked to listen to what this is all about, in the next several minutes, I am going to dismantle the oversimplification around the claim that reading is not natural to the human brain. I am going to break it down into very precise, meaty cuts and frankly enjoyable to sit with. This video from the BBC amassed millions in engagement, conversations that don't just flatten complex issues and ideas, but actively undermine discussions in fields like neuroscience by quietly belittling human intelligence itself. The video opens with a confident assertion.
Clicking on this video activated circuits in your brain that took thousands of years to develop the ones required for reading.
And it quickly arrives at its core claim.
We think of language as natural and reading is written language, so it must be natural. But it isn't. It isn't natural at all.
Pause right there, because everything that follows depends on how the word natural is being quietly redefined. The video then tells us
Scientific studies indicate that a neurotypical brain is born with the circuitry that allows our eyes to see and our vocal cords to produce sounds, but it doesn't innately have the ability to read.
that statement is technically correct and conceptually misleading. Not being present at birth does not make a capacity unnatural. Walking, complex social reasoning, mathematics, music, none of these arrive fully formed. Reading is not absent because it is alien. It emerges because multiple ancient systems have to be linked. Next comes the evolutionary argument.
From an evolutionary time scale, our brain hasn't had enough time to develop a dedicated reading brain.
True, but irrelevant. The brain did not evolve for books, it evolved for extracting meaning from the environment. Writing is new. The cognitive work reading demands is not. Time depth applies to scripts, not to comprehension. Then reading is framed as a kind of biological workaround.
To build a reading brain network, we co-opt parts of the brain involved in vision and auditory processing and language and attention and affect.
But co-option is not evidence of artificiality. It is how the brain has always worked. Vision never functioned without meaning. Language never functioned without emotion or memory. Integration is not a patch, it is the design. The historical detour follows.
The Sumerian cuneiform symbols are thought to be one of the earliest writing systems in the world, dating back to around 3300 BC. Around the same time, though, Egyptians started developing their hieroglyphics. Symbols evolved over time.
Exactly. Writing systems evolved to better fit the brain, not because the brain struggled with them, but because culture refined the tools. Scripts became simpler, more efficient, more learnable because they adapted to human cognition. The video then reinforces its neuroscience credentials.
Reading is really a whole brain process. It involves activation in all four lobes of the cortex.
Yes, and that should end the argument, not support it. Whole brain engagement is not a sign of unnaturalness. It is a sign of a skill that sits at the intersection of vision, language, memory, imagination, and social understanding. Script differences are then introduced.
Chinese characters, for instance, are an example of the logographic system. Each object or idea is represented by a symbol rather than by a set of letters of the alphabet. Research indicates that learning logographic writing systems activates different areas of the brain than learning an alphabet-based language like English.
Of course it does. When more meaning is packed into a single symbol, visual memory carries more load. When meaning is distributed across letters, phonological systems carry more load. That tells us about scripts, not about whether reading itself is natural. This is so dramatized further with a case study, which is
After a massive stroke, he lost the ability to read Chinese, but his proficiency in English remained intact.
this sounds persuasive, but it proves something very specific and very limited. Damage to fine-grained visual processing affects visually dense scripts first. That's neuroanatomy, not evidence that reading itself is artificial or fragmented. Then the video shifts to embodiment and empathy.
We might feel in our guts the nervousness or the pain of a character. And I mean that not only like I feel it inside me, but I mean that literally. Like the anterior insula, which is responsible for gastromotoric movement, for feelings of nausea and pain and discomfort, is also the part of the brain that's associated with many of the empathic processes.
Yes, and that again works against the opening claim. If reading recruits systems for empathy, bodily sensation, and social simulation, then it is not an abstract bolt on to the brain. It is embedded in some of our most fundamental human capacities. Later, the argument turns to screens.
Reading on a phone or tablet is generally passive scrolling, often interrupted by messages and alerts. When we read on screens, we tend to skim, and when we skim, we're more susceptible to misinformation.
Here, the confusion is between attention and reading. Distraction is not new. Deep reading has always required conditions. A medium can fragment attention without redefining what reading is. And finally, the video arrives at its conclusion.
The power of deep reading is really fundamental to our humanity. When we read deeply, we change our brains and change who we are.
And this is where the contradiction becomes impossible to ignore. If reading reorganizes cognition, expands empathy, and reshapes who we are, then it is not alien to the human brain. It is then one of its most demanding and most fitting expressions. So, the problem here is not neuroscience, it is translation. A narrow technical claim is stretched over the limits, and nuance is lost in the process. The brain did not evolve to read books, it evolved to read the world, patterns, intentions, danger, meaning. Books did not invent that capacity. In fact, any form of reading gave meaning to it. We were always readers, and then finally we wrote it down.